What's up, guys? We're doing another recording here for Knailz. Just a quick coaching video about how to hold a one-base tank push from a nasty Terran. I'm going to try and make this one as quick as possible and just cover the sort of main mistakes that we are noticing in this game. So to start off with, we've got a nice game here on 2000 atmospheres. And the beginning, sort of first few minutes here, I don't have too many problems with. This Terran goes for something that's a little bit annoying when they do a full wall at their natural. At the top of the ramp, I should say. So it prevents you from getting any scouting information. Now you choose not to actually go up to see straight away. I'm not sure how you knew that this was a full wall, so you just sort of blocked the expansion anyway. But I think this is fine. You keep this alive. You check to see if there's a factory, and then you get out before a Reaper or a Marine would come out. So that is absolutely fine. And I like this response from you, actually, in terms of building your nexus, getting your gases, like not overreacting too much. I think sometimes it's tempting to just go for a really aggressive, like 2-gate or something, but it doesn't really help against Terran 1-base stuff the vast majority of the time. You go for this battery here. Now, this is an interesting place for a battery. It's sort of far back, which is fine, but it's not going to allow you to poke out in this area. So it's very far back, so it has its advantages. It's sort of like the battery you do against a Zerg, maybe. But it's not the end of the world. You go and you get this Reaper, which is really, really nice, and then you send the Reaper across the map, which is beautiful. This is exactly what we need to be doing. And I actually really like your choice of build here. You get your Robo on time at 100 gas. You also get 4 gates, I believe. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4 gates and Robo. Now, against a one-base Terran, you can sort of cut probes here after like 8 if you want to. You don't really need full saturation, but it's obviously not the biggest deal in the world if you want to do that. But what you're going to be thinking right now, once you see that he doesn't have a natural, is that there's going to be one big thing coming. And generally, that's going to be a tank push if it's one base. You don't really have the money to afford a scary bio push on one base. Or if you did, you would just do 2 base anyway. So it's going to be a fairly early tank push. It could be something like a battlecruiser. It could be something like Banshees. It could be a proxy base. But the most common and most sort of obvious thing that's going to happen, until I see something else that's scary that Terrans can do, is going to be some variation of a 1 base tank push. And so this response is actually really good for dealing with that. 4 gates, just lots of stalkers, batteries, and immortals are going to be the way to deal with this. But there's a way that you need to control that. That is going to make things a lot easier for you. So I don't think you need the Twilight here, to be honest. It's not the hugest deal, but I would say I would be focusing on immortals, stalkers, and batteries. And what we need to start doing is thinking about, if the tank push gets here, how am I going to hold this? So you don't want to be stuck behind this wall, because if you have to funnel between this choke and outside, the tanks are going to annihilate you in this choke. So what you need to be able to do is keep the tank push back for as long as possible. And so the way you're going to do that is you're going to send stalkers to this side of the map. And you want the stalkers to be waiting here in a nice little arc when he moves out. And then you want to kite that push across the map all the way until he gets to your base. You want to snipe anything that you can. Even if you're just killing Marines, you can whittle that down. Right? So I think you do end up figuring that out as soon as you scout it with this Adept. So you shade in. And then here you finally see, okay, he's moving out with a bunch of tanks and Marines. So you start sending the stalkers out, which is good. And then something, and I have to tell you, this is the way you have to beat this. So when this Liberator comes in, you get some nice hits on it, and this is really good for you, but it ends up being bad, because what happens is you end up chasing this Liberator to no avail all the way back home. Whereas if you were to stay here and kite these, or even go here and kite these Marines as they get to your base, you would be in a much better spot. So instead, you chase this back, which is the first major mistake that we see in this game. So you did get a supply block earlier, and I don't want to make too big of a deal out of that. But because you chase this back, the tank push is managing to get all this ground for free. So think of this like an American football game. He's playing, this is your end zone, right? This is your end zone, and he's got to run the ball. And he's got to get here, and this space is what he has to cover. He doesn't have a great way to cover this space with just Marine tank because his units do not trade well until they are sieged up. So you want to delay that siege up and you want to make him fight for every inch of ground from here to here. But you have allowed him to go from here to here for free. And you're actually going to allow him to get all the way to here for free, which is by the time you get to here, it's almost too late. So that's the first thing. You want to be kiting that across the map. The second thing that you want to do is once you've been kiting, what you want to do is get some stalkers, like 3 to 5 stalkers, preferably like 4 or 5, and flank around his army. And you want to get behind his army so that your 4 or 5 stalkers are between here and his army, so that any reinforcements that are rallied towards your base get picked off for free. And he has to actually think about, okay, I need to clump this up and send another push through before I send those. And then even then the stalkers can kite those. So you want to get some stalkers behind this army. So your positioning at the top of this ramp is not doing anything for you. You're allowing him to get all this space for free. And then you're not actually picking off any reinforcements. The only way this push is good is if it gets in position here and gets constantly reinforced. And then eventually it becomes impossible. So now you end up staying on 2 gases. You could be getting charge here. Charge would be like your sort of trump card to get out of this. He's added a medevac to this, but that's not the biggest deal in the world. And he's actually gone for an expansion. But that actually doesn't really matter in this game because really all that this comes down to is this push. You're so far ahead. If you hold this push, you're fine. But again, now he's sieged up because you played a little bit scared. And you have no batteries up here. So the third thing that you could have been doing is building some batteries in very forward spots so that when he did finally engage you, you had a bunch of batteries to defend it. And remember we said we don't want to be stuck behind this choke, so this battery is useless. So we could potentially add batteries out in front here, make a lot of stalkers, and then engage it. So the 3 things, we need to make sure we kite this push as soon as possible. We need to get some flanking stalkers at some point between his base and your base so that you can pick off reinforcements. And we want to make sure that we don't give up any ground and we build a lot of batteries in the front so that when we do finally have to fight, we have batteries in position to help defend this. So that's all I'm going to say about this one. I mean, we can watch the rest of this game. It builds up into a big push, and he gradually whittles you down. And you kind of get stuck in this choke position. This battery doesn't really end up doing anything. I think this Immortal probably dies basically for free. You do some nice moves here with Micro, like you do some flanks and stuff like that. But because he's got units being rallied, this push is only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. He's going to add Liberators, he's going to add Marines, etc., etc. And so you're fighting the enemy that's in front of you, not the enemy that's on the way. So that's sort of the trick to defending tank pushes. So try those tips out. If you have any questions, let me know. But hopefully stuff like this won't give you too much trouble in the future.